This is the Unique Stories About Us, a program where I discover and discuss the strange and wonderful stories that surround us. So, without further ado, let us begin now.
The sun was still high, so I decided to walk up Mount Tudensee to have a bird's-eye view of the country. Dersu came with me. We traveled lightly, taking only our rifles. Mount Tudensee is a big hill falling steeply down to the Liefu Valley and cut by deep gorges on the northern side. The foliage had already turned yellow, and the ground was strewn with fallen leaves. The forest was getting thin, only the oaks still clad in their full attire, though sere and faded. It was a steep pull. Twice we sat down for a breather and then resumed our climb. The ground all round was torn up. Dersu often stopped to examine the spoor. By it he could tell the age of the animals and their sex. He could see the tracks of a lame boar and found a spot where two boars had fought and one driven the other off. From his words I could clearly picture the scene, and it struck me as strange that I should not have observed those tracks myself sooner, and that even if I had seen them, I should have learnt nothing but the direction in which the animals were traveling. In an hour we reached the top, covered with scree. We sat on a stone and had a look round. "Look, Captain," said Dersu to me, pointing to the opposite side of the ravine. "What that?" I looked in the direction where he was pointing, and saw a dark spot. I thought it was the shadow of a cloud, and told him so. Dersu laughed and pointed to the sky. I looked up and saw that it was cloudless, without a speck upon the whole blue expanse. A moment later the dark spot changed its shape, and moved a little to one side. "What is it?" I asked the gold in my turn. "You know nothing," he said. "Must go see." We started down. Soon I noticed that the dark spot was coming towards us. 10 minutes later the gold sat down on a stone and signed to me to do the same. "Must sit here," he whispered. "Must sit quiet. No break twig, no talk." We waited. Before long I caught sight of the dark spot again, and noticed that it had grown considerably, and I could distinguish its component parts. It was some living creatures coming gradually toward us. "Pig!" I exclaimed. It was, in fact, a herd of wild pig, over 100 of them. Several of them kept straying to one side, but quickly rejoined the main body. Before long, we could distinguish individual animals. "One man very, very big," whispered Dersu. I looked at him uncomprehendingly, wondering to what man he was referring. Standing out like a dark lump in the middle of the herd was one immense boar. He was far greater than the others and could not have weighed less than about 560 pounds. The herd came nearer every moment, and now we could clearly hear the rustle of the dry leaves trampled under hundreds of hooves, the crack of broken twigs, the snorting of the boars, the grunting of the sows, and squeaking of the pigs. "Big man no come near," said Dersu, and again I failed to understand him. The big boar was in the middle of the herd, but a number of the brutes wandered about on one side and the other, some to quite a distance from the main herd, and when any of these individuals came quite close to us, the big boar was still out of range. We sat immovable. Suddenly one of those nearest to us raised his snout. He was chewing something. I remember, as though it were yesterday, the huge head, the pricked ears, the cruel eyes, the mobile jaws with the wide-open nostrils and great white tusks. The brute stopped munching and froze, fixing on us his inquiring, malicious eyes. At last he understood the danger and uttered a piercing snort. Instantly the whole herd, snorting and grunting, dashed to one side, and at the same instant a shot rang out. One animal rolled in the dust, and I saw the rifle smoking in Dersu's hand. For a few seconds the forest resounded with the crash of broken branches, and then all was still. The wild boar of the Ussurian district, Nering, is related to the Japanese wild boar and contains huge dimensions. In weight it runs to well over 600 and even 660 pounds, with a length of 6 feet 6.5 inches and a height of 3 feet 3 inches. The boars are armed with a pair of powerful tusks that may reach a length of almost 8 inches. As they are fond of rubbing themselves against the trunks of firs, cedars, and spruce, their bristles are often smeared with resin. In the cold autumn weather, they are fond of wallowing in mud so that the water freezes onto their bristles. In the sows, the udders become enormous and sometimes form such an immense lump of ice as to impede the animal's movements. The wild boar is an extraordinarily active and powerful brute, with sharp eyesight, keen hearing, and a wonderful sense of smell. When wounded, he is formidable indeed, and woe to the unwary sportsman who incautiously approaches one. When followed, a wounded boar will lie down on his tracks and face his pursuer. Then directly he sees a man, he will charge with such ferocity and violence that the latter hardly has time to get his rifle to his shoulder. The pig killed by Dersu was a 2-year-old sow. I asked the old man why he had not shot a boar. "Him old man," he explained, speaking of the huge tusker. "Him bad to eat, meat much smell." I was struck that Dersu spoke of the boar as a man, and asked him why he did so. "Him all same man," he said, "only different shirt. Him know everything. No traps, no angry, no all round. All same man." Suddenly I understood. The attitude of this primitive soul to nature was animistic, and he humanized his whole environment. We spent some time up the mountain, and the day imperceptibly drew to its close. The clouds, piling up on the west, glowed as though of burnished bronze. Through them broke the beams of sunlight, spreading fanwise across the sky. Dersu paunched the pig, humped it on his shoulders, and we started home. In an hour we were back at camp. In the Chinese cabins it was close and suffocating with smoke, so I decided to sleep out in the open with Dersu. "Methink," he remarked, looking up at the sky, "tonight be warm, tomorrow night rain." I could not fall asleep. All night long I could see nothing but boars' muzzles with distended nostrils, nothing else but those red nostrils. They looked at first like small points, and then suddenly grew immense. Then it was not the head of a boar, but a mountain, and the nostrils were caverns, and then again a boar's muzzle. What a strange thing is the human brain. Out of all the impressions of an eventful day, out of the mass of varied things seen and noted, one in particular, by no means necessarily the most important, but often a quite subsidiary matter, makes a more vivid impression and leaves a stronger memory than all the others. Some places, even where I had no adventures at all, remain graven in my memory far more clearly than others where there were quite important happenings. For some reason or other, perhaps a particular tree in no way different from 1,000 other trees, or an ant heap, a yellow leaf, a lump of moss, and so on. I really think that I could sketch these things quite accurately in all their details.